TheMesh.tv, an online network of original free audio and video shows based out of Western North Carolina, reaching the entire world. Listen and watch through iTunes or through the website TheMesh.tv.
What's up, Internet? Welcome to the RealTailgate.com College Football Hangout, sponsored by Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. Log on to the RealTailgate.com for promotions, a list of locations, archived editions of this hangout, and download the RealTailgate.com College Football Podcast. Stop by any location and pick up the Tailgate Special, because it's just not a tailgate without the barbecue, and it's just not a show without our panel. So let's introduce my friends who are with me tonight. Dimitri Ravanos from RealTailgate.com podcast. What's going on, man?
Not a lot. I like that our show each and every week starts with all of us looking weirdly at the camera, waiting for someone to tell us to go.
Gotta wait for the ding, right? Denny O'Brien, Pirates Chess Magazine.
Hey, how are you? Oh, yeah, great to be here. I figure why not go with the pirate theme, since that's all they do at East Carolina.
JP Monday from SB Nation's blogger, So Dear.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I was going to fly a Real Tailgate banner tonight, but I couldn't find a pilot.
The 12 people who get that joke are laughing pretty hard right now. Lauren Brown, Fox Sports Carolinas.
Hey, guys. I've never had my hand in the dirt before, but I'll do my best to talk football with the rest of you men who assuredly all have at some point.
Oh, who invited the mouthy
Just do your
bras?
best. Just do your best. Sean Kress, Bottom of the Pile podcast.
How's it going? I was just going through trying to find my 3 degrees. I'm a little embarrassed that they're still in the envelope that the school sent them to me in, but then again, I've never had to rub them in anyone's face. So.
I'm your host, Ben Swain. Our technical producer is Talking Moose Media, so let's talk some football, guys. So ECU, off to a 4-1 start and has the 18th best passing attack in the country. Denny O'Brien, are the Pirates the best program in North Carolina?
Well, they're the best of the two, of the only one that they've played against. It's really hard to tell. You know, we'll find out, I think, more in November when they play NC State. And by the way, East Carolina will probably be rolling into Raleigh that day with a 9-1 record if you've looked at their schedule. Really hard to tell. I think a lot's going to depend on injuries for them. You know, they just suspended their 25th wide receiver of the year this past week, so they are running low in the wide receiver ranks. But right now, it's hard to argue against the Pirates, which is, I would say, a pretty big accomplishment by Ruffin McNeil in his 4 years there.
Yeah, they got Southern Miss and FIU coming up, so I think injuries aren't even going to matter. Dimitri, what do you think? Who's the best team in North Carolina?
Well, I think arguing who the best college football team in North Carolina is has about as much merit as arguing who is the best behaved inmate on death row. But I would say, I don't know that I would go so far as to say 9-1 coming into the NC State game. I think they could lose this week at Tulane. That's a team that causes a lot of turnovers, and with Carden sort of putting this team on his back last week and having to get them past Middle Tennessee State, if he struggles, I don't know that ECU can win that game.
Yeah, Tulane has beaten 4 high school teams this year, so it could be a tough one for the Pirates.
Well, look, when you can only pass, if the pass isn't working, how on earth are you going to score points?
Well, I mean, they did rush for 250 yards against Carolina. Well, never mind.
Yeah, exactly. You and me
yeah, we've proven nothing there.
Put up 250 against Carolina.
Sean Kress, what do you think?
It's a little bit like running unopposed, but I think that you have to say that East Carolina's got a statement of being the best in the country. Or, sorry, in the state. It's a little like being the fastest catcher in Major League Baseball, I was going to say. But they do this about once a generation. They did it back in 1990 or 91. They did it under Logan, and now they do this is another special year for them. So it just happens to have occurred in a year when everybody else in the state is down.
All right, JP or Lauren, do either one of you guys want to be right and say that East Carolina is not the best program in the state?
Wake Forest has played 5 quarters of good offense this whole season, so I'm going to agree with ECU.
Lauren, what do you think?
What's the correct answer supposed to be? Is it supposed to be what's in? Is an NC Central like 4-1? Is that what you want me to say? No, I would say it's ECU. Just based on what I've seen.
Well, there's a difference between best program and a best team in one year. It's a big differentiation.
It's very.
Yeah, I think that's a Cutcliffeism, I believe. Program's a big word. I don't know. I mean, I think NC State is still arguably the best team in the state. But let's talk about them. So there's 13 years and counting since the Wolfpack won in Winston. JP, is it a talent gap, a curse, or is it pretty much just a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point?
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. For some reason, North Carolina teams, and this is where Lauren's got it right. James Curl thinks that it's only limited to NC State. It's not. Every North Carolina team that seems to walk into the former Grove Stadium seems to have something weird happen to them. And you had to know it was going to happen early when State took the ball, drove down to the Wake Forest 35, and somehow that entire sequence ended in a quick kick or a pooch punt. So right then I started to get a hint that maybe today was going to be different, because even I predicted that Wake Forest was going to, end their own in-state streak.
Yeah, here's the thing. None of the programs in the state that have been very good. So it's not like it should be a huge shocker that they can't win a road game against a team that, will certainly get motivated to play them in Wake Forest, and they always do. I don't understand why people act like it's magical or mystical, especially since Jim Grove's really been turning that program around since 2001. Should those teams win there? Yeah, probably, but they're also not that good, so I don't understand why people act like it's like Alabama going to, I don't know, some terrible SEC team and losing. Like, it's not like that.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I mean, Wake Forest came out and they had made some tweaks on offense. They had, increased spacing on the offensive line. They were doing 5 wide sets, and State's coaches just simply never, ever adjusted to that, and that's just a sign of with that and the penalties, it's just a sign of a team that's just not very good yet.
Did Campanaro sneak past the scouting report? Is that what happened?
No, it was all about the wide line splits. That's what they'll tell you. And they say they made adjustments on the sideline, but I guess those adjustments weren't heated or something like that. So I think that helped create some mismatches for him on linebackers and whatnot, and clearly he took advantage of it. But he's also good, so, sometimes he's going to get open no matter what you try to do.
He's open all day.
He really was.
You do kind of have to wonder if there's some validity to the idea that it being a curse when whatever NC State seems to hire cannot seem to get a win there.
I guess.
Chris, I think every new coach for North Carolina school has lost their opener in Wake. Is that right, Sean?
It's something like 7 in a row or something like that. Yeah, and it's at some point you have to say that it's not just that everybody happens to have a bad day when they go to Wake. You got to think that Grove is doing something to cause that. I would disagree with JP. I didn't see anything really weird that happened in the state game. I didn't see anything weird that happened when UNC lost there last year. It's just that they didn't ever get anything clicking, and you have to give Grove credit, maybe not once, but when it's happened that many times over the years, you've got to give Grove some credit for making other teams look bad, for out-scheming the guys that are coming in there.
Listen, clearly it's just a case of Wake having no atmosphere, right? I mean, that's the narrative. There's no atmosphere at Wake, so the players have to create their own energy.
A true story about Jim Grove. He was recommended for that job by Steve Logan when he was at East Carolina. Jim Grove's first game at Wake Forest in Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium, East Carolina's preseason number 24 in the country, and Wake beats them in Dowdy-Ficklen after Steve Logan recommends him for the job.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Sean, how much of a difference is Brandon Mitchell going to make when he comes back?
I think the offense was designed around him. I know they said they didn't have the decision made until game day, but I think that the offense was designed around his talents. I think Thomas has done a good job filling in, but I don't think he hasn't looked like he's felt entirely comfortable in that offense. I think it's designed for Mitchell. I think that once Mitchell gets in there and gets his feet back under him, we'll see that the offense start to move like it did at the very beginning of the season before Mitchell went down.
So, guys, what is it about NC State? Because it's not just limited to football, right? It's like if they believe something is going to go wrong, it ends up going wrong. We see that with basketball. We see that, with the Chandler Parsons full court shot at the end of the game. It's just there's an expectation that something's going to go wrong. Is that real, or do things go wrong because there's just an expectation that it's going to happen?
I think that things have happened, and that has created the expectation. I mean, in basketball, look, NC State is a delusional fan base, and they realize they're a delusional fan base. They're never going to recruit the same level of talent as Duke and Carolina. They're not going to recruit the same level of coaching talent as Duke and Carolina. I'm shocked it is carried over to football, because one would think, given the resources of the athletic department that the alumni have donated there, one would think that someone would go out and sell this program to a great coach like they did this time around, as this is the chance to make a big impact. Keep those kids from the Tidewater area all the way down to the bottom of our state at home, and it just hasn't happened. I don't know what the answer is. I will just say that I am shocked that even in football.
I think Dimitri got cut off there. I didn't mute him, I promise.
I don't see how anyone in this state is going to just dominate, not even dominate, but be a consistent 9 or 10 winner in football. There just aren't enough Division I prospects in this state. Those that are, if you look at the Charlotte area, Steve Spurrier can go in there and get any kid that he wants. Western part of the state, Virginia Tech tends to get anybody they want there. I mean, you're not going to go in North Carolina and just recruit the Chesapeake area, because Virginia Tech, Virginia recruit there very well. I mean, there's just so much competition in the state of North Carolina for recruiting and not enough athletes there. It's hard to be consistently good in this state.
Yep, agreed. And also you have to build the fence, and no one's done that yet. So
what do we need? Contraction? Do we need to get? We're adding Division I schools in North Carolina. Do we need to?
We need a relegation system like the English football.
Yeah.
The Tailgate Special from Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. It's 8 pieces of chicken, a pint of barbecue, any 2 sides, 2 dozen hush puppies, and a whole gallon of tea. Just go to realtailgate.com for details, coupons, and a list of locations that open early on game day.
Speaking of relegation, UNC would be kind of below the cut line right now. They're 1-4, staring 1-5 right in the face. Lauren, is there any way they get to 6 wins this year?
I'm having a hard time finding them. I mean, this team's really weird. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all if they, lost all the rest of their games, but it also wouldn't shock me if they won on Thursday. They're just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this team. They're really weird. But
they can score.
Yeah, that's the thing. Their defense is just horrendous. So, and that's not going to change anytime soon. It's just not. It's worse than last year, arguably. So, I don't know. I don't know. Could they? Yeah, I'm just not seeing the wins on the schedule. I mean, when you look at the schedule, I don't even think there's a certain win left. I mean, even Old Dominion, I think, could give them problems. I think they'll win the game. But, I mean, I think that's a team that could give them issues. So, I don't know. I'm not seeing it.
Lauren, one of the questions I had for you was, in the games that I've seen in North Carolina, the players look like they're just going through the motions. There's not a whole lot of sense of urgency, at least in my opinion. I mean, you're closer to the team than I am. What do you see? Well,
I've seen it as there's a divide on that team. I mean, it's not to go whatever, cliche or whatever, but there kind of is. The older guys and the younger guys, it seems like there's a separation there or something like that, where I think that a lot of the older guys seem to think that they're, I don't know, entitled to something, or I don't know. They have a strange attitude with the way that they approach things, just based on me talking to them and then talking to some of the other guys about you can kind of read between the lines as to what they mean by what they're saying. And yeah, there's definitely kind of this attitude of entitlement and, oh, we're really good, when, they're not really good. And I don't think that they quite get that yet either, that they have to kind of earn respect. I think that they think they already have it somehow. It's a problem, though. I mean, I think there's real division in that locker room right now.
Do you think they're bought into Larry Fedora?
Some, yes, I think, especially the younger kids, I think, but the older guys, I think that they like him okay, but they just kind of seem to regard him very casually almost. Anytime one of the coaches says anything, Vic Koenig had that, tirade last week, and then, Trey Boston was asked about it, and he's just kind of that's just coach. It's really not that big of a deal. So there just seems to be kind of a disconnect there. I don't know that they dislike him. I just don't know that everybody's quite on board, to use the old cliche there. But
guys, why is it that we can't be critical of North Carolina without getting into psychoanalysis?
I don't know why we have to ignore it if it's I'm not psychoanalyzing. I mean, I just think it's a thing. I don't know why anytime it gets brought up, it becomes this thing where it's it becomes like a taboo subject. I mean, I think it's like a real thing. I mean, I think it's because we think that, well, I guess some of us think that they have some talent. It's just they're not playing very well, and they play like idiots.
Well,
a better way of putting it.
I'll tell you this, and I talked to Steve Logan about this in depth. When I saw East Carolina play North Carolina, that was not a mental win. That was a case of East Carolina, no question about it, unit by unit in most cases, had better talent. They really did. The offensive line and defensive line of East Carolina completely controlled North Carolina in the trenches. East Carolina had the better secondary, which is not a very good secondary, by the way, had the better receiving core, and obviously had the better running back, which was, honestly, I had not seen Carolina play this year. And when I went into that stadium, just because what I normally expect, I thought North Carolina would have better talent. I thought they'd win by 10 or 14 points. I was completely floored by what I saw from what I'm accustomed to seeing, especially on defense, the complete lack of talent. Look, every time East Carolina tends to play them, they've got at least 3 or 4 draft picks on defense alone, right? Not considering the people that they have on offense. I was just floored by the lack of talent that they have. Not saying that they don't have some, but yeah, I'm accustomed to them having much more talent, and I just thought, and I look at these things very objectively without bias, but I thought East Carolina, for the first time that I've ever seen them play North Carolina, had the more talented team.
Before we get off on the no bias claim, because I don't think that's true for any one of us on this show. Dimitri, what do you think? Are you on board with that? Is it a talent dip, or is it this lack of focus, lack of buying in? What's the issue?
I think the reason that a lot of us wonder is there a lack of focus is because they did not get any better on defense from last year. You know, and I think no matter what game you watch, they have to get better 1 year into whatever this is that passes for a system that they are claiming is their system. And it just didn't happen. I know on the podcast we talked about, of course, Carolina will be better on defense because there's no way they could possibly be worse. So, yeah, I mean, you know, when there's no improvement in that way, it does make me think there's got to be some disconnect here. And also, you got to remember that these kids that you have to wonder. What's that?
So we lost you again, Dimitri.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to have a crap connection tonight. You have to wonder, this guy's, with Fedora being their third coach, are some of these guys just sort of waiting for, you know, they're going to be out of Carolina. They never really had a chance to make their mark because they went through so many different groups of guys in charge of it.
Yeah, that's what bugged me the most, because they never fought back, especially in that group, in that game against ECU. You know, you would expect them to respond and, you know, hey, we're down in our own place. Let's get it going. And ECU smacked them in the mouth, and Carolina would never, ever smack back. And they just looked surprised. And like I said earlier, they're just going through the motions. And to me, the big thing about Carolina football is I don't understand why they're not good. They should be consistently good every year, in my opinion, with the amount of resources that school has for athletics. So I don't get it.
All right, Chris, let's move on here. So Duke's 3-2. Might be getting their quarterback back this weekend. How many wins are left on their schedule?
They've got a fairly soft schedule going ahead. I think that I was worried about them getting to 6, especially when they lost to Pitt. I think 6 is the expectation again at this point. I would think that 7 is reachable, and I wouldn't think that 8 is out of the question with the way that UNC and NC State last week looked.
Lauren, what do you think?
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I don't think that there's a game left on their schedule that I think that they'll definitely win, but I don't think that there's one left that I think they'll definitely lose either. Probably, well, Virginia Tech and Miami, but like, other than that, you know what I mean? I don't see a game left that I think, oh, well, they'll definitely lose that game. And so I definitely think they could get to 6 wins. This week's big for them, though. That would definitely go a long way towards them getting to that mark. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think for the most part, everybody's beatable on the schedule that's left, and that's a good thing.
JP, same question to you, because Wake's one of those teams left on the schedule, and I think both teams are kind of eyeing that one as a bowl elimination game. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know. You know, Wake Forest has to get through Maryland first, and I'm not convinced that they have enough to get past Maryland. So
Give us coach speak, JP.
Yeah, no shot. Wake's got no shot at 6. No, I don't know if Wake's got 6 if they beat Maryland, but I don't know.
What, Nikita can't knock out a backup quarterback and get to a linebacker again?
Well, I think that Wake's got what? They got Florida State left, Miami left, they've got Duke left, and Vanderbilt left. So if they beat Maryland, they can win those 2 games. They can win at least 2 more games.
All right, so Denny, it comes down to it seems like at least schedule-wise comes down to Duke and ECU for the state championship. What's going to happen there?
Well, are we talking about who's going to get the most wins? I mean, schedule-wise, that's a no-brainer. East Carolina clearly will get the most wins because if you haven't seen their schedule, I mean, they've still got Southern Miss, which hasn't won in 17
No, I'm talking
consecutive
about
games.
in-state schools. So is ECU going to beat North Carolina State?
Oh, I thought you said Duke.
Yeah, he did say Duke.
No,
Well, he did.
ECU coming down for the
said
state.
Duke.
State
We're
champ.
Well,
really
they
considered
may
teams in
play
the
in
state.
basketball this year, but I think I'll give that one to Duke. But
State champ.
you know, I'm going to call it. I think State will win that game. I said this all along. If East Carolina had played State earlier in the season, when they were just getting accustomed to Dave Doran's schemes, and if Brandon Mitchell would be healthy, I think East Carolina would win the game. I think playing them later in the year is a disadvantage for East Carolina. I think they're going to come in there pretty high with a pretty lofty record. And who knows, State could be fighting for bowl eligibility at that point. And so flip it around, this game could actually mean more to NC State than East Carolina, given the timing when it occurs and what could be on the line for them. But ultimately, I think State will win. It's there in Raleigh. It's going to be later in the year. Who knows what the injury situation will be like? But I think State will win it.
So one thing is for sure, and it's incredibly sad that we've gone on about our North Carolina teams like this. So we will never have to worry about this. But Dimitri, how do we feel about the makeup of the college football selection committee for the playoffs? Again, not that any of the 4 teams that we 5 teams that we talk about will ever need to worry about that. What do we think about the makeup of that selection committee?
Well, for all the fuss made about David Pollock saying that a woman doesn't belong on the committee and he only wants people that have played and coached the game, I think all of us have talked to, met, work with former players and coaches that are blithering idiots. I want people that can spend time watching a lot of football on there. I mean, I guess I give them credit for thinking outside the box with Condoleezza Rice, but I don't understand, ESPN has been trumpeting that what they like about Condoleezza Rice is she is someone that can apply the criteria without bias. Okay, well, she grew up in Birmingham, where she admits she was a fan of the Alabama Crimson Tide, who played 45 minutes from her. She was in the president's box against Ole Miss. I know because I was sitting directly across from it and could see her in it when I was at the game. She now teaches at Stanford. It was in their president's box last week. So tell me where there is no bias there.
Well, where's there no bias with everybody else?
No, I
Mike
agree
was
with you
commissioner of the, well, why are we only talking about Condi Rice? Like, I get tired of this. I'm not saying you're doing this, but, like, this is what happens every time. It's like everybody just wants to talk about Condi Rice and what her issues are, and it's like, how about half the other people on the committee? Like, what makes them qualified? Mike Tranghese, like, he was presiding over a league that died and never played college football. So why do we talk about that? But nobody wants to.
Well,
Hey, Mike Tranghese did the college football
or Condoleezza Rice are guys like Oliver Luck and Pat Hayden, who are active athletic directors, and if they are any good at their job, they should be paying attention to their team on Saturdays.
Well, I think that's going against the face of what we do in college basketball, right? I mean, the selection committee in college basketball is made up of current ADs, and that's pretty successful. Again, it's 64 teams instead of 4. Yeah. But Sean, what do you think? What do you think about the makeup of the selection committee?
I mean, I wrote about Condi Rice for Real Tailgate earlier in the week. I have no problem with her being selected. I feel like she knows her stuff. I feel like she's obviously capable of making this decision. if they want to get attention for the committee, and I feel like that's really what they're doing, is they're going out to national figures and trying to get them on there, mixing that with the football. I don't really necessarily agree with that strategy, but I have no real problem with it. So I get what they're trying to do. I don't think I would plan it that way, but it'll work. It's 4 teams. It's not rocket science. They should be able to figure that out, and I'm sure people will debate about who that 4th and 5th team should be, regardless of who's on the committee.
JP, the fact that there's such an uproar about, well, let's just stick with Condoleezza Rice right now, but Lauren's absolutely right. There's such an uproar. Is that a sign that it's working?
Yeah, I don't know, because you've got – my problem isn't with Condoleezza Rice or whoever else they're going to put on the committee. My problem is, why do we need 13 people to select 4 teams? Like Sean says, it's not rocket science. We should figure it out. But people are paying attention, which is good. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd agree that it's working or not. To me, you put Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson, and somebody else in a room, give them a case of beer, let them hash it out, and we've got ourselves a 4-team playoff.
Whoa. Denny, what do you think?
I don't understand all the fallout over Condoleezza Rice. I mean, she's automatically the smartest person on that committee. So I don't think there's any question about that. But, I don't think there's any way, especially in football. I mean, let's take the coaches poll. I mean, the coaches poll is just so absurd, because if you are a smart coach, how do you not vote your team? Especially if you're in the running. I mean, you can understand all the years that Mac Brown took flack for voting up the Longhorns. Of course, he doesn't have that problem these days, but voting the Longhorns in his poll. But I just have a problem. I mean, why not use part of or modify the system that we have today that decides the BCS to decide the 4 teams? There is an objective methodology to that with the computers that helps us factor that in, and there's also the factor of opinion we have with sports writers and radio personalities, etc., as well as coaches. I don't know which is better or worse, but I don't know that a selection committee. I think you will certainly introduce some biases into the equation. It just depends on how they ultimately implement it.
I think you're going to get flaws when you're talking about computers that consider human polls. I mean, you look at the AP poll right now, or the coaches poll right now. Florida State's number 8. If the first poll came out tomorrow, is Florida State number 8, or are they higher than that?
I don't know. I don't know. But we're in week 6 or week 7. These things tend to work themselves out. I mean, people get in such an uproar in week 7 because Auburn is 18th or 19th in the poll. But guess what happened? Auburn started the year unranked 4 years ago and ended up in the national championship game because they took care of business. I think for the most part, these things tend to work themselves out. I've never been a huge advocate of the playoff. As a result, I personally like the current system, but I'm not an anti-computer guy. I think they do a good job. My problem is they've over the years they've taken out some criteria. They've taken out things like margin of victory, which I think help define who some of the better teams are in the country. I think the more criteria, the better. And I don't think when you have a selection committee, they're not factoring in all of the things unless they just have the computer poll in front of them.
So, Lauren, let's go back to you for a second, and I do want to address this with the backlash on Condoleezza Rice. Continue your point on that, because you're spot on in that there's no backlash with the trainees. There's no backlash with the other guys that are on this committee who aren't those hand in the dirt football players that you're talking about. Or I guess that was Pat Dye's quote, I believe.
Yeah, that was Pat Dye's quote. Yep.
So, I mean, let's just cut to it right here.
Did you say that between packs of cigarettes, Pat Dye?
The issue that's out there isn't non-football players making football decisions. It's that there's a woman on the committee. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And any critique of her on the committee, for the most part, there are some reasonable ones, but I think for the most part, it's just all coded. That's what it is. It's just all in code. It's like, well, you want someone who's been immersed in the game and blah blah blah. And it's to me, it's just football is an old boy sport. It's a man sport, right? And anytime there's always some natural backlash to a female analyzing the sport or offering an opinion on it if she's not somehow the window dressing of the broadcast, like a sideline reporter or something along those lines. And just everything is so coded. It's like when you see articles written all the time now, it's like, for women, it's like, how to make your tailgate fashionable and cook delicious food. Like that's the only way women will like football is if they're cooking and there's fashion involved. It's 2013 and we're still talking about this, but it is what it is. And yeah, it's upsetting as somebody who covers it and has covered it for a long time, but it's just it's code is what it is, and that's the reason that she's the only one, in my opinion, being critiqued. That's honestly my opinion.
Lauren, I wonder if you think that the backlash would be the same if it was someone like you who's been covering the sport for a long time. Do you expect you would get the exact same reaction as Condoleezza Rice, or do you think it is, because I agree with you, definitely a lot of it is coded to the fact that she's a woman, but do you also think the fact that she is from so far outside the world of college football has made the backlash even bigger?
Yeah, I definitely think that's what I'm saying. Like, I've heard reasonable critiques of her being on the committee. It's just, again, for the most part, that's the only backlash you hear about anybody on the committee is with her, and that's what bothers me about it. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I still think if it were somebody like me, that there would be people out there like pulling up everything I've ever written to prove I was an idiot,
Sure.
to prove I didn't know what I was talking about somehow. You know what I mean? So I think, and nobody's going to necessarily do that with the men. Oh. Nobody's going to do that for the men on that committee, though. Nobody's going to question their credentials. It's just assumed that they have them.
Yeah, JP, are we jumping to conclusions about what her football knowledge is? I mean, you look at Mike Tranghese, BCS money is free money, right? It just falls right into your lap. All he had to do was not mess it up, and he killed a conference because he didn't back college football. And now he's on the most important committee in college football. Are we just jumping to insane conclusions about what Condoleezza Rice does and doesn't know about college football?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And for me, I think that if you're going to have a committee of guys who have had their fingers in the dirt, then I think Condi's a great addition in there because she's Ivy League educated. She's a critical thinker, and I've talked to a lot of football guys, and some of them ain't the most critically thinking guys on the planet. So I think if you're going to have a committee, we're going to be meeting in a room to decide something that we, as college football fans and people who cover it, are going to watch. Then I'd like to have somebody in there that might be a voice of reason.
And the other thing is, she knows how to be briefed. When she was Secretary of State, she wasn't an expert on drone strikes. She wasn't an expert on chemical weapons. She wasn't an expert on all the different tribes in Afghanistan. But she knew how to listen to the explanation of what was going on there and make intelligent decisions. She may not understand the 4-3 defense, all the different nooks and crannies of it. She may not understand a computer model, but I'm confident that when someone explains it to her, she'll pick it up a lot faster than David Pollack would if he was on that committee.
Yeah, Denny, if you had to pick one, would you pick Condoleezza Rice or would you pick Jesse Palmer to be on that list?
Well, Jesse Palmer wears the skinny tie, so I can never choose any guy that wears the skinny tie and has been the Bachelor before. I mean, honestly, I would take Condoleezza Rice because, when you think about this is all about making smart decisions, right? She spent 8 years where her sole job was to make smart decisions as a part of helping secure a nation, right? It's a lot easier to pick four good football teams to play in a playoff than it is to help keep the nation safe. So, I mean, is she qualified? Yeah, I mean, I would think, and like what's already been said, she might not be able to pick out a 4-3 defense, but have somebody net it out for her. I bet she could. I bet she could be as much a whiz at it as I can.
And plus, we all agree that no one on this committee should be breaking down film? Can we all agree that no one should be breaking down film? I mean, that was the most ridiculous argument that I ever heard.
And, honestly, Sean, that's my question about is this working? Because you've got the SEC fortress that's crumbling a little bit, right? Like, yeah, our team's got 2 losses, but they're SEC. I mean, look at their defense. That's the kind of thinking that I think is creeping into this. That there's fear that Clemson's going to go undefeated and end up in the Final Four. That Florida State's going to go undefeated and end up in the Final Four. while a 2-loss LSU team or a 2-loss Georgia team is going to be sitting at home. Is that not what the fear is here, guys?
I think so. I totally agree with that, actually. Yeah, especially when you take computers out of it, which include the human poll. I think that's part of it, too.
But Denny's right, though. This stuff mostly sorts itself out throughout the season. So in the end, isn't this committee just deciding which team is number 4, which team's number 5? I mean, isn't that what we've done for the past few years with the BCS? I mean, basically this committee will be what, if it was this year, they'd be picking between Baylor and Clemson, Baylor and Florida State. I mean, the other 3 will probably be pretty clear to everybody, right? Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, no, I think you are. I think the last time I can remember that many undefeated teams, I mean, I guess it was 2009, going into the bowls. Didn't we have Alabama, Texas, Cincinnati, TCU, and Boise State all undefeated? That's the last time I can remember having that many teams where you would have to have someone to pick between.
I don't know, guys. I think it's much tougher to do what we do and try to argue about 2 and 4 teams and who's better than it is about who's going to be number 4, number 5. So maybe we should be the selection committee.
We should be the selection committee for like a relegation tournament, like you suggest.
Oh man,
that'd be awesome.
On that note, let's get some parting shots here, Sean.
Yeah, I got nothing. Go ahead. Next person. I'm used to being last.
Lauren Sweetheart Brownlow.
Well, I guess I got to go pretty soon because I got to get back to the kitchen and start baking something instead of watching football.
JP.
It's really good to see Lauren tonight, but I just hope we didn't confuse her with all this football talk.
Denny.
Well, hopefully either Carolina or Southern Miss will get a win in the next couple of weeks. I'd hate to see Larry Fedor's recruits to end the year with just one win.
Unless that win comes against ECU, right, Denny?
Hey, you're talking about a curse. East Carolina does have a curse when it comes to Southern Miss. So
if Southern Miss beats East Carolina, I fully expect Fedora to flood your timeline on Twitter.
And buy rings.
Hey, Dana Holgerson already has, so.
Dimitri, take us home, man.
I would just like to say that I fully respect everything Butch Davis has done at Miami and the University of North Carolina. He is not just a fine coach, a good man, a real pillar of the community, and anybody who says anything negative about it, you'll have to go through me. Also, I would like to mention that the new Pearl Jam album is out on Tuesday, and it is delightful.
Well, at least we won't get any defamation threats from Eddie Vedder and company. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you to our technical producer, Talking Moose Media. Thank you to our sponsor, Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue, reminding that it's just not a tailgate without the barbecue. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks a lot.
The Tailgate Special from Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue. It's 8 pieces of chicken, a pint of barbecue, any 2 sides, 2 dozen hush puppies, and a whole gallon of tea. Just go to realtailgate.com for details, coupons, and a list of locations that open early on game day.
TheMesh.tv, an online network of original free audio and video shows based out of Western North Carolina, reaching the entire world. Listen and watch through iTunes or through the website themesh.tv.